the early 2000s, two tourists entered a famous pub in Scotland. Their attention was immediately drawn to a picture of a legendary creature hanging on the wall. The scene seemed strange to them, and they suspected that the image might not be real. At that moment, an old man sitting in the pub called out to them, affirming that the picture was indeed real and that he was ready to tell the story of this legendary creature, if they had time to listen. The young man and woman sat down to hear the story, and the old man began to take them back in time to the days of World War II, in the 1940s. They saw a small boy named Leo, sitting on the seashore beside his rural home in Scotland, staring at the water and contemplating the idea of going in. Leo had always been afraid of the sea, but that day he decided to be brave. He stripped off his clothes and began wading into the water, only to suddenly find himself sinking deep. He soon realized that it had all been a fantasy in his mind. He could not actually go into the water. Leo then decided to collect some seashells, as he liked to do, and headed to a specific spot, recalling his father's words that the place was magical and filled with strange, wondrous shells. Suddenly, Leo noticed a massive egg in the water. He picked it up, placed it in his bucket, and continued walking because he heard his mother calling him. Upon arriving home, it became clear that Leo's father had been absent for some time, serving as a naval officer participating in the war. Leo counted the days anxiously, waiting for his father's return during his leave. Leo examined the strange egg he had found by the shore. When he cleaned it, he noticed it was glowing and beautiful, but he did not finish cleaning it as his mother called him to go to bed. During the night, as heavy rain poured outside, Leo felt movement near the observation area of their home. He hurried over and found the egg had cracked, and from it emerged a strange creature. Leo took the creature to the kitchen, brought it some potatoes, and began feeding it and befriending it. He noticed a wound where it had emerged from the egg, so he quickly applied a bandage, reassuring it, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you from today onward." But his mother called him suddenly, forcing him to return to his room. The next morning, Leo awoke to see a large number of army vehicles parked in front of their house. He was excited, thinking his father had returned. It turned out he had an older sister named Christy. Their mother went out to see what was happening, and there they met the military commander, Martin. He informed them that the army unit would be stationed in the area, with officers staying in the house while the rest camped outside. He assured them that they would not deplete the town's resources because the council would provide everything they needed, and that his men were skilled hunters. Martin added that Scotland was currently the front line of the war, so they must be prepared for any possible enemy attack. Leo decided to confide in Christy about the strange creature, but she showed no interest, so he left her and went to the library to investigate the creature and learn how to deal with it. When he entered the garage, he was shocked to find the creature eating his father's shoe. He immediately went to fetch food for it but discovered one of Martin's aides, responsible for the kitchen, was present, along with a fiercely trained dog. Leo had no choice but to use a trash bin to feed the creature, which immediately began eating from it. From that moment, Leo decided to name it Croso. Leo examined a book about mythical creatures and found something that exactly resembled Croso, recalling his father's words about a legendary creature that lived in the lake. A creature no one believed in except his father. Leo then sprinkled water on Croso to clean it, while Commander Martin was busy mobilizing his men in the area, reminding them that they were there to protect the country, not to enjoy the scenery. Leo continued playing with Croso in the water until he heard a commotion outside. He went out to see Martin's men had caught a deer, but he could not bear the sight and ran away. At night, a man named Lewis appeared at the village pub. Martin's men were present, but Lewis ignored them and continued drinking in a corner. The following day, Leo's mother entered the garage and noticed that Leo had been spending long hours there for days. Her attention was drawn to Lewis, who explained that he was performing the maintenance tasks requested. She asked him to organize the garage and repair the broken items. She added that she suspected her son was hiding an animal, and since he was not allowed to keep any, she requested that any animal present be removed. When Leo went to the garage, he saw Lewis emptying the trash bin filled with water and collided with it. Leo began searching for Croso, who had been spending time there, and scolded Lewis for collecting his father's belongings. Lewis became furious and said, "This is my work. When your father returns, do what you want." Leo spent the entire day looking for Croso, while Martin went to talk to Lewis to get to know him better but found him to be very taciturn, which frustrated him. Meanwhile, Croso wandered around the house unaware of anything, until he saw the cook's dog chasing him. He became frightened and tried to escape. Fortunately, the dog was tied with a rope and could not continue chasing Croso, but in the process it completely destroyed the stove. This caused the cook to punish the dog and confine it to a room alone. Leo entered the house feeling sad, but he heard his sister, Christy, screaming. Realizing that she had seen Croso, he ran quickly and indeed found Croso sitting in the bathtub. He told her everything that had happened, explaining that he had come out of the egg, marveling at Croso's strangely rapid growth. Leo asked Christy not to tell anyone, fearing that their mother might intervene and get rid of Croso. Meanwhile, their mother went to see Lewis, bringing some old clothes that had belonged to her husband. She was shocked to realize they were no longer needed, as her husband had died a year earlier when his ship sank, taking his life along with everyone on board. She still could not bring herself to tell Leo this truth. Before leaving, she noticed old scars on Lewis's body and asked him to repair the bathroom. When he went there, he found Christy and Leo present and saw Croso. For the first time, they felt reassured by him, noting that he was kind and gentle, though Lewis warned them that Croso might bite if approached too closely. Lewis then explained that Croso resembled the legendary seahorse. When a seahorse is unable to survive, it lays a single egg before dying. Croso, being both male and female at the same time, reproduces asexually, which explains why his size increases with every meal. Lewis was fascinated by the legendary Croso. When their mother called for Leo, Lewis decided to help them discreetly, placing Croso in the trash bin until she left. Everything passed peacefully, though their mother felt that something was amiss. On her way out, the mother met Commander Martin, who said, "We want to hold a party tomorrow and hope you will be our honored guest." The mother agreed, and Martin clearly seemed smitten with her. Lewis tried to convince Leo to release Croso into the lake, but he firmly refused, saying, "Croso's well-being is my responsibility alone." The next day, the mother dressed in her finest gown to attend the party. Martin and all the officers stopped to show their respect, acknowledging her for hosting them in her private property. Meanwhile, Leo was playing with Croso in the bathtub and feeding him. Christy came to alert him that the military cook and his assistant were dancing together. Unnoticed by them, Croso slipped out of the bathroom. The dog detected him again and chased him at great speed, causing absolute chaos in the house, trampling and destroying the dining table in front of everyone. Leo ran to catch Croso and Lewis tried to follow, but their mother stopped him, demanding that he find Leo to bring him back to his room and put an end to the chaos. Croso managed to escape, but he noticed a fountain filled with fish and decided to jump in and sit there. Lewis then asked Leo to return to bed, fearing their mother's anger, but Leo continued searching for Croso all night. Eventually, he saw Croso inside the fountain, now much larger in size. Leo woke up, took him into the car, and they drove off. Lewis wanted to leave Croso in a distant part of the sea, far from the house, given his enormous size. They reached the lake and tossed food into the water to entice him to enter. Leo stood sadly, having grown attached to Croso, but he had no other choice and returned home with Lewis. Upon returning, Lewis found Martin waiting, irritated that he did not know much about him. Lewis addressed him sharply. "It's best for you to mind your own business and not try to speak to me." Meanwhile, two villagers were fishing in a boat. Unfortunately, their line got tangled with Croso. They tried everything to pull it out, but it was nearly impossible. Croso dragged the boat until, in desperation, they had to cut the line before capsizing. Croso then leapt out of the water before them, and they were shocked by his size and appearance. Leo, meanwhile, became practically a servant to the army men as part of his military training, but he grew bored. Taking advantage of Martin's absence, he escaped the house and returned to the place where he had left Croso. He called out and apologized for not being able to see him recently. Suddenly, the impossible happened. Croso appeared in the sea, giant, sitting and eating as he pleased. Remembering the care he had always given him, Leo jumped onto his back, and together they embarked on an exciting journey beneath the sea. Croso dove underwater to show him the beauty of the ocean. Noticing that Leo could not breathe, they surfaced for air and then dived again. Leo saw fish, countless sea creatures, and even remnants of war-damaged ships. Overwhelmed with joy, Leo was ecstatic. When they returned to the shore, they faced a problem. The military cook was watching everything. Leo went back to tell Christy and Lewis what had happened, full of joy. When their mother called and saw him laughing and happy with Lewis, she decided to step back, while Lewis followed her to thank her. The mother said, "I haven't seen my son this happy in a long time." With courage, she decided to ask him if he had served in the army. He recounted that he had participated in the war and had been hit by shrapnel in his abdomen. He said to her, "My arm could have been severed as well, because I was an artillery soldier and a German plane bombed us. I kept firing at them until I woke up in the hospital." Leo and Christy stood at a distance, moved by his words, while Martin continued observing what was happening. He had asked his assistant to gather information about Lewis and discovered that he had served as a supervising officer and was considered a war hero, having been honorably discharged. This revelation angered Martin even more, as he feared that his love for the lady he admired might be taken from him. That evening, the two fishermen went to the city tavern and began telling everyone about the strange monster they had seen in the water. The next day, Martin decided to take Leo and his family on a car trip to show them the achievements they had made in the area since their arrival, although his main aim was simply to capture the mother's attention. They arrived at the point where the army had gathered weapons, and the shock was that they possessed large, powerful cannons. Leo was afraid they might use them in the water, so he rushed to his mother to tell her everything and pleaded with her to stop it. She did not believe him, and Christy tried to confirm his story, but she too could not convince her. With the firing of the first cannon shot, Kroso became frightened, and the projectile passed right beside him. The tourists, hearing the story from the old man, assumed that this was the end of the events. But the old man explained that Leo had not stayed silent. He had gotten into trouble, shouting at Martin and his officers to stop firing. Martin became furious and scolded him excessively. At that point, the mother decided they should return home, and Martin lost her respect forever. However, the fishermen did not lose hope. They decided to make a wooden model resembling Kroso to photograph it and show it to the world. This is the image currently hanging in the tavern. As for Leo, he spent the next 6 months going to bed early and refraining from any activity, especially since his mother did not believe him, nor did she believe Christy. Then one day, the military chef saw Kroso's picture in the newspapers and confirmed to his colleagues that he had seen the creature before with Leo. His colleague decided to take some men and go out to sea to capture it. At that moment, Lewis sent Christy to take Leo away, as he had heard much about Kroso, and instructed Leo to make the creature understand that it needed to leave the area, or it would perish. Leo set off with Kroso toward the lake, calling loudly, but there was no response until suddenly Kroso appeared, looking extremely aggressive after being shot at. Leo refused to believe it and reached out to him, trying to remind him of himself. Unfortunately, Kroso remembered the sound of the cannon and prepared to attack. Luckily, Lewis intervened quickly and managed the situation. Still, Leo blamed himself for leaving Kroso to become feral. At the same time, the chef arrived in a boat intending to hunt the legendary creature. Leo and Lewis felt hopeless and decided to return home. However, Leo heard the chef's dog and realized something was happening. He returned to the lake and saw Kroso, now gigantic, facing the dog and the soldiers, who had begun firing at him. Kroso tried to evade the shots by diving underwater, then suddenly surged with great force, capsizing the boat entirely. At that moment, Captain Martin was attempting to apologize to the mother for his actions, and news reached him that they were under attack, unaware that the war was actually against the legendary creature, Kroso. When the mother learned that Leo had gone toward the lake, she was shocked and asked Martin to take her there. At that moment, the chef was in the water in front of Kroso, but Kroso still retained Leo's kindness within him and did not want to harm him. Leo arrived and called out to Kroso, "Get away from here!" When he did not listen, Leo jumped into the water after him, but he fell and began to drown. Kroso recovered, threw the chef away, and dived after Leo to save him, placing him in front of Lewis to help him regain consciousness. Kroso gently shook Leo's hand, and Leo regained consciousness, recalling memories of his father from the last time he had seen him, when his father told him to rely on himself no matter the cost. He woke up and found Kroso before him, and they began to play together as they had always done. Martin and the mother arrived at the scene. When the mother realized that Leo had come to save a legendary monster, she became furious, cursing the war and the death that had driven people insane. But Kroso appeared before everyone, stunning her and making her believe. Leo said, "This is my friend who came out of the egg." Although everything was back to normal, Martin's men thought the war had started, so they continued firing toward the lake. At that point, Leo decided to jump with Kroso into the water, trying to escape quickly. Martin tried to communicate with his men, but the winter storm prevented it. Leo and Kroso continued swimming until they came upon a massive net blocking Kroso's passage. The three reached the boat, and they asked Leo to leave Kroso and get in quickly. Leo looked at Kroso with sadness and said, "You are the best friend I've ever had. I will never forget you." Leo went into the water to return to his family. Encouraged, Kroso retreated far back, then surged forward, leaping over the net and successfully crossing it, gaining his freedom in the sea. Finally, everyone returned to the shore, and the mother understood her son better and was reassured that Kroso would be safe. Suddenly, Kroso passed in front of them one last time, looking at Leo as if to say goodbye. The old man concluded his story to the tourists, saying, "Many have claimed over the years that they saw him, but Leo never saw him again." The tourists were amazed and asked the old man his name. The surprise, the child Leo was the old man himself. In the same town, we saw a small child playing on the shore, who discovered the legendary seahorse egg once again. It became clear that Kroso had died, leaving this egg for someone else to find and continue the story. And thus, that was the end and everything was well.